The first day that we got into the mission field, I entered the mission Peru Lima East, started there. We got onto a bus that was just right outside the MTC. It drove for like 2 minutes and stopped in front of this house. We had the great joy of the fact that the MTC was actually in our mission. So this huge bus drives, stops right in front of this house, and we all get out and we're just staring at this house like, what's going on here? You know, we've got the new mission president, President Ardila, standing there. He's from Colombia, didn't speak much English, but excited, happy, you know. And as we're standing here in front of this house, this garage door just opens, and inside are all the trainers and all the office wearing weird hats, all this stuff, just like start blowing off whistleblowers and all these noisemakers with this huge sign that says, "Welcome to the mission." And it was just like, this is so cool. So we started there. We had during that whole day, we had, what do we call it? It wasn't really a conference, but it was the welcome to the new missionaries, a bit of an explanation of the things that we were going to be experiencing while we were there. For those of us who didn't speak Spanish very well, some of the office members came and sat by us and tried to explain what the president was saying and all this stuff. So I remember a couple of particular things. The first one was the awesome feeling when I met my first companion, my trainer. His name was Elder Conde. He's a short guy from Peru, from Arequipa, which there's a funny story about that, but I could explain that later. He was this really happy guy, you know, and he was excited to meet me, and he was telling me about how awesome this was going to be, and it just got me excited. I was just like, yes! And then they started speaking in Spanish. And I remember the president speaking in Spanish, and I'm kind of sitting there trying even harder to figure out what he's saying. You know, I just left the MTC. I had just learned how to at least understand mostly what Spanish speakers were saying, how to communicate. Maybe not effectively, but communicate at least. And we get here, and he starts using all these big words and just really fast, and you're just like, I know nothing again. I know nothing again. But it was another good feeling, because then you wanted to keep learning more after that. I remember in particular my interview with him on the first day, and we're sitting there, and he sits down, and I sit down too, and he goes, Elder Cory, how are you? And I go, I'm good. Bien, bien. He goes, what goals do you have? What goals do you have? And I go, well, I have this goal. And he suddenly goes, Elder, por favor, usted está hablando español en esta misión, necesitas hablar en el idioma de tu misión. What? You need to speak Spanish. Spanish is your mission language. Speak with me in Spanish. Okay. Bien. The whole interview just kind of went with like that, just me trying to speak this terribly broken Spanish, and him kind of going, oh, that's interesting. But you could see that he understood, you know, because I'm sure he had many North Americans who couldn't speak Spanish trying to talk with him. But even besides that, though, like, even though there was that hard communication for me at that moment, and for him because, you know, he's learning English himself, it was still a really cool interview, because it was that first moment where it's like, this is real. I'm going out, I'm doing stuff. This is my mission president. He's in charge of me. He's probably going to be watching over me and about 200 other people. This is real. This is awesome. And that same night, because my first area was in Lima, me and my companion, we left a lot of the other guys who were going out to the further areas of what we called province. And that was going out to Huancayo, to Huánuco, the places that later became the new mission Huancayo. They stayed at the mission home that night. We just went to our apartment. And that, I believe, was kind of the most real feeling of like, this is really happening. I am a missionary. I'm done with my training. I'm out of the MTC. No more big walls surrounding us. We're going to go out. We're going to do things. And it was both scary and yet also exciting. And getting to the room and just kind of collapsing on the bed. And then that first week was probably the scariest thing I've ever done, because as I'm going out, my companion, he doesn't speak English either, honestly. So we're trying to communicate. We started learning. We got better as we went along there. That first week was the hardest, though, just because we did have so much communication barriers. And then because I also had communication barriers with the people who we were teaching. And when he would take me out, when we left the apartment after studies and we started doing all that stuff and proselyting, it was hard. It was kind of like this. There's the food's new, the people are new. I don't know how to talk to them, and about the only thing I could do was when my companion looked at me like, "Your turn," and I would just be like, "Es verdad. It's true. It's true. What my companion has said is true." I mean, and I didn't even know what he said some of the times. He probably could have said, "And my companion here is a moron, and he really, really smells bad." And I would have just been saying, "It's true. I testify, it is true," whatever he said. But what was really cool about that was even doing just that, even just trying to say something, you could still see the effect that it would have on people. There were still people there who were just kind of like could feel like, yes, okay, yeah, that is true. And when I tried to share my testimony, which didn't happen too often because I was still kind of awkward and not sure what to say. But when I did try to share something as far as testimony goes, and you could feel the spirit there, it didn't really even matter that my Spanish was broken and bad, but you could still see the effect that had on them, and that it was just that cool feeling of joy, and just that they could feel it. I mean, I don't know if they really wanted to follow it or if they understood what it was, but you could see it, and you could feel it too. So that was a cool moment.